Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be talking about the one and only ICP, right? First of all, you know me that I have this coin. I absolutely love this coin. I do think it is going to do well this cycle. But before we talk about how it's going to do this cycle, how, high this coin can possibly go, let's talk about the smaller time frame, right? In the more recent bias, let's say the last week or two, and then let's actually talk about the last 2 months, 2 to 3 months, because they're actually very, very important. A lot of details, key details people are missing out on. Okay. So we can see, right, in the last couple of days, in the last few short weeks, right, we kind of have been just going sideways, generally speaking, right? We have been going sideways. We can see that we have been ranging anywhere, let's just say from 467 to boom. If we take it from here, this nice, beautiful zone to like $5.15. We can see that, right? And look, this is actually what you want to see, right? When something goes sideways, it usually means the next thing that's going to happen is a leg to the upside, especially if the context was we were going down, then sideways, then usually it's like, hey, there might be a little fake out, but then we're going to go up, which is why I want to talk about the last 2 months as well. We can see that obviously, all right, we take it from December, we start selling off, we do what we have to do. But overall, we can tell that boom, right? We have been creating lower, 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 lower highs, consistently lower highs, right? And then, of course, we continue to sell off. We then eventually, ladies and gentlemen, right, kind of go from selling off to when we hit April 6th, April 7th, right? We go from selling off to kind of like sideways momentum, right? Which is good. We can see that generally in the last few months, we have just been ranging, let's just say from 617 to even, $4.37, right? It doesn't matter about the literal cent or even 5 cents here and there. The point is the general image, right? We can see that generally speaking, we have been going, since December, practically the beginning of December, we were selling off. And then practically from after the first week in April, we went from selling off to, we can see, consistently going sideways. So what does this mean for me? Well, if I'm looking at ICP, right, and I'm looking to, for example, be buying, generally I'm looking to be buying in this range, in the 50% or less, right? We take it from the top, take it to the bottom, right? 50% or less is going to be the discount of this zone, right? Are you going to get like the literal perfect bottom entry, right? Is there smaller chance that we can go lower to like even $4? Yeah. But you're going to be getting great prices, generally speaking, if you dollar cost average in the zone, right? In this range. Of course, $6 and $5 is a huge difference, right? It's a huge difference, right? You will make those extra gains. And since we know that we're ranging, you could be doing something like this, right? Looking for the 50% discount, to 100%, right? But we can see, right? We're going sideways. We are mainly going sideways. Now, if we go look at something like the weekly, we can see that we actually have been holding this zone for many, many weeks, right? Even closes are good, right? The only thing that looks a little concerning, which doesn't really concern me because I believe the context is going to be different, is that we are consistently creating lower highs. Okay. Personally, though, however, I think there is at max going to be a fake out before we then pump aggressively. Okay. Because when you look at certain context in the markets, right, something like this, creating lower highs consistently, is not good, right? It is not good. But, right, we're not creating lower highs necessarily, higher up. We're creating lower highs down here. And yes, even though there's technically wiggle room to go to even as low as 350, I do believe this is more of a bait setup. When we go and look at something like Cardano, right, something that played out way before, like way, way before, back in even of 2023, right, we can see at one point we had a nice base floor, right? And despite us making, you know, us going lower consistently, right? Boom, if we go like this, all right, boom, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, consistently lower and lower high, right? And eventually, right, even though, we did go up here, we're still a lower high than this, right? Boom, it didn't look good. And all of a sudden, boom, we just broke out of this channel, right? Of course, you got to wait for that confirmation, just to make sure it doesn't fall. But, you could have taken a risk at 24 cents, or you had that confirmation, you can buy at 27 cents, which is literally what I did, right? That's literally what I did. I flipped Cardano when it started to break out at 27 cents. I remember I sold it for, I think, high 50s or low 60s, somewhere over there. All right. And then, yeah, I got into other projects, right? But we can see they were consistently showing lower and lower highs. But then it was actually just a bait setup to then go higher, which what I believe may be happening with ICP, right? You know me, I I just say it how it is, right? Sometimes I just say what I literally see, right? In most of my videos, when you see me saying there's no confirmation X, Y, and Z, then I'm just telling you what's the chart's literally saying, right? But this is speculation, right? There's no confirmation yet, but I do believe that this is going to be the case. Now, even if, Cardano drops a little bit, or sorry, not Cardano, even if ICP drops a little bit, right? And despite everything happening the way it happened, I still believe in this project. I ultimately do, right? I actually believe that we're in actually a very similar scenario of, this, right? Somewhere down here, right? We had, when we go and look at it, right? We have one rally, two rally, base bottom, and then we go below the bottom, one rally, two rally, base bottom. We go below the bottom, and then we can see what happens when we go below these bottoms, right? When we go below this zone, which is the main zone, and then we go lower, eventually we shoot up, right? This is the base bottom, we go lower, and eventually we shoot up, which is what I expect. But this time when we shoot up, I expect for us to take out the $15 zone, the $20 zone. I expect for us to do well, right? My minimum price prediction for ICP, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be $70. Right now, I know some people are saying crazy prices. Some people are saying really high prices. But I'm just telling you my minimum conservative price prediction for this. I do believe that we will most likely be going into this institutional candle. I am 99% confident that that is going to be the play this cycle, right? Of course, if there's a double pump, then we could see something where, ICP eventually gets to here, sells off a little bit. 3 months later, there's a second rally. ICP goes from, hitting 70 back, let's say, to 30, 40, to eventually then going to something like 150, 170, 180. And we talked about how that is very possible in terms of, right, in terms of literal market cap. Okay. But, we will see, right? Even if we 20x right now, we're going to be sitting roughly a little bit over 50 billion market cap. And that's going to be, almost $100. So, that's what I'm saying. $70 more than realistic. Ultimately, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.